Welcome to another edition of Confidently Speaking with DOC. I am your host, David Doc Shirey, author of the book, Rare Confidence, Strategies and Inspiration to Strengthen Your Belief that you can achieve anything. We have got a bad mamma jamma on tap for you tonight. I cannot wait for you to meet our guest tonight, episode number 10. I am having so much fun. And, gun sales are skyrocketing right now. And there's a lot of reasons for that. We're going to get into some of those. Self-defense has become a huge issue right now, especially for you ladies. And our guest tonight is the perfect guest to tell about why it's so important that you're able to defend yourself. Listen, as always, this is a participatory program. That's the way that it was designed. So please comment, ask questions. The first half of the show, we're going to kind of tell our guest's story. The second half of the show, we're going to kind of get into issues of the day surrounding self-defense, guns, the Second Amendment, all that stuff. And as always, I will ask if you could please hit that share button. That will allow us to continue to expand our reach. Our reach is growing. We have some incredible guests coming up here in the next few weeks. So I really appreciate that. All right, before I introduce our guest tonight, I want to give you a little bit of background about my experience with guns. I'm not really what you would call a gun guy. As a matter of fact, the first time I ever touched a gun, I was in college. And me and my boy, John Glazer, country boy from Tip City, Ohio, and I'm a city kid from Pittsburgh, best of friends. And what happened was Glay and I decided to go skeet shooting. So Glay says, Doc, you want to go skeet shooting? I'm like, sure, we'll go skeet shooting. So Glay takes me out to the country. We go to a skeet shooting range, and I don't know, Glay must have had his own rifle. They probably rented me one, and he was in the bay next to me, and or the lane, the bay, whatever it may be. And what happened was he was so excited to shoot, he was paying no attention to me. He yells over to me, "Hey, Doc, get that rifle up on your shoulder." Well, what happened was I got the rifle up on top of my shoulder right here. And so I was about to shoot, and he looks over at me, and he about tackled me because it has to be in here, not up there. So that was the first experience I had. Then fast forward to the year 2000. In the year 2000, 2002, my father was toward the end of his life, and it was the fall of 2002, and I got a call from my stepmom, Maxine, and she was like, "Hey, your dad has a couple guns here." My dad was a jeweler, and he used to carry around diamonds and gold, and so he had a reason to carry some guns, but he wasn't long for this world at that time, and Max asked me to come and pick up the guns, so I did. I knew nothing about guns, and there was a couple revolvers. They looked like they were silver, steel, really heavy. I took the guns, I put them in a Giant Eagle grocery bag, and I pulled up to the, anybody who's local here in Pittsburgh knows that I pulled up to the number 6 police station on Northumberland Street, and I called the precinct from across the street, and I said, "Hey, I'm across the street right now. I got a couple guns in a Giant Eagle grocery bag, and I just really want to turn them in. They're my dad's, and he's not doing too well." And they're like, "All right, get out of the car, carry the bag in your right hand, put your left hand in the air, come inside the precinct, walk up to the table, drop the bag on the table, go back to the wall and stand like this." So I walk into the precinct. I held the bag in one hand, the hand in the other. I got 5 cops there with their hands on their holster. I put the bag on the table. One cop went up, took a look in the bag. "Thanks." So they probably kept the guns. So fast forward until recently, and all of that has changed.
I recently bought a very small 22 caliber pocket pistol, a Beretta Bobcat. It's got this tip-up barrel, which is really easy to use. And then since then, I've gotten a Smith & Wesson Bodyguard 38 Special that's got this very cool laser on it. And you can see the difference in caliber size between the 38 Special and the 22 right here. I can't wait to hit the range tomorrow morning and try out this 38 Special and see how powerful it is.
Now, anybody that knows me knows if I'm going to do something, I'm all in, right? If I'm either all in or I'm not in at all. So I have immersed myself in safety. And before anybody out there freaks out, I got myself a nice little safe. So we're going to keep it safe, locked up. Don't you worry about that. And I've really learned about these guns. I mean, I haven't yet shot the new 38, but when I bought the smaller one at the bottom there, immediately I must have watched 1,000 YouTube videos. I talked with our guest tonight, another gun range owner, and everybody kind of had the same idea. They're like, yeah, it's a cute little, they call it a mouse gun or a pocket pistol, but that little bullet they didn't think was good enough for a true self-defense, something to keep in your home to really defend yourself. And you can see the difference here in bullet size. So I thought that was interesting. The other thing I'll tell you is, I'm not afraid to put myself out there. So I bought the gun and I go to the gun range. And there's a couple good old boys sitting at the counter, and they can kind of tell I'm new at this. They sell me a target, and they tell me to go inside. It's an indoor range, and I go to the stall. They tell me to go to stall number 1. I take one shot, and I was holding the gun wrong, and the hammer hit my thumb, and I started to bleed. So after one shot, I have to leave the range area through the double doors, ask for a Band-Aid. They're all laughing at me. They give me a Band-Aid. I go back in, and I went ahead and did some shooting. Come back the following Friday. Here is this guy again, really confident this time. They tell me to go to lane number 6. As I'm hooking up the target on the metal clips, I cut my finger again on the clips. I had to go ask them for a Band-Aid again. They were like, listen, we haven't had anybody ask us for a Band-Aid in 5 years. You've been here twice, and you're bleeding both times. But I will tell you, I'm getting better, and I've immersed myself into understanding, no sports. They took the basketball hoop in the neighborhood down because of the virus. They don't want you to get close to anybody. So I needed something to pass my time in a new interest. All right, I'm really excited to introduce tonight's guest.
Judi Phelps is the range owner and operator at On Guard Defense Training Center and Shooting Range in the beautiful Hocking Hills region of Southeast Ohio. Judi holds various certifications, including the United States Concealed Carry Association Training Counselor and Instructor, the National Rifle Association Chief Range Safety Officer and Certified Instructor in various firearms disciplines, Commando Krav Maga Level 2 Smart Safe Instructor, and more. As a personal protection and self-defense enthusiast, Judi is passionate about sharing her knowledge and skills with others, specifically women who represent the fastest growing market segment in the gun industry. Judi has real-world knowledge and experience. She channels that to help women and men overcome their fears and reservations and transform that energy into educating and empowering the ladies to become lady warriors who are prepared to protect themselves and those they love from the criminal element. Confidently Speaking with DOC is thrilled to welcome Judi Phelps to the program tonight.
Hello, Judi.
Hi, Doc. How are you?
I am doing tremendous. How are you, Judi?
I'm great. That was a hell of an intro. Thank you.
Listen, when you come on this show, we don't mess around, my friend. You know, Judi, when I met you, there are those few people in this world that when you meet, you may have only met them and had a chance meeting, and you feel like you've known them for a long time. And I have that feeling with you, and you're just good people, and I'm thrilled to have you on this show, and you're really so special and unique, and we're going to get into that in a minute. But I want to revisit our day with you a couple weeks ago, and I want to share with everybody. So it was it was Father's Day weekend, and my son, as everybody, my friends know, he's a student at Ohio University, and I wanted him to come home for a weekend, but he said, Dad, why don't you come down here for the weekend? So I came down to Athens, Ohio, and he wanted to go shooting, and he had been shooting once on his 16th birthday, but he's 20 now, and I said, okay, so I found you guys, I called you up, you told me how to get there. I just plugged the address in, Judi, and we drove through some dirt roads in the middle of the woods. It was like deliverance out there. My cell phone didn't work. I was worried that I was going to get a flat tire and nobody would ever hear from us again. But then when we got to the facility, wow, the place was awesome. You got the indoor meeting center there. You have the 2 separate outdoor shooting areas. You immediately assessed our level of expertise inside and got to know us. We went outside. Your husband, Scott, spent the entire time with us on both different shooting ranges. I mean, it was just a tremendous experience. I got to tell you, over the last 5 or 6 weeks, I've been to a bunch of ranges. Nobody does that. Nobody does that. So, and the last thing I'll share with you about that was, as Alex and I were headed back to Athens from the range, we had a great time. He had a great time. He was laughing. He said, Dad, Judi said the same thing about your gun that you said all those guys on YouTube said, which was, well, I guess you could always throw it at them, that little one. So I got a big kick out of that. So, all right, Judi, enough about me. Let's talk about you.
Well, my goodness, no, we very much enjoyed yours and Alex's visit, and I'm so glad that you had such a wonderful Father's Day. And coming into our area, Alex is at OU, and that's your alma mater, if I remember correctly. And so I was just chuckling when you were describing your travel here, because, yeah, we are out in the sticks, but it is the most beautiful area of Ohio. We're located in the Hocking Hills region. We see 2 million visitors a year. And I especially enjoyed your description of earlier, you talked about your visits to the other range and getting bites and them laughing at you and whatnot. And see, this is what's typical of most ranges, whether it's indoor or outdoor. You pay your money, they assign you a lane, they shove you off. And to me, that's dangerous. To me, what I wanted to create here, and I think we've been successful in doing so, is just as you've described. We have so many visitors here of a variety of skill levels, but we want to put safety in the forefront. So we make sure we create sort of a base platform of knowledge before we go out to the range and do live fire. And every time we have customers on our range, we always have 1 or more certified range safety officers on the range to ensure safety and help people progress and become safer, better, law-abiding firearms owners.
I couldn't agree more. I can't imagine a safer range than what you have there. So, Judi, you and I spent a good half hour after our shooting session just getting to know one another. And as Scott alluded to, and then you told me, your journey to self-defense had a really shocking and horrifying beginning. And I asked you if it was okay if I asked you about it, and you said yeah. So can you share with our audience what that was and why you got your start in self-defense?
Sure, and I appreciate your sensitivity there. Unfortunately, domestic violence and sexual assault, human sex trafficking, child trafficking has become so prevalent today. And I am not the type, I'm sure you gathered that upon meeting me, I'm not a victim. I will never be a victim. Bad things happen to me, and I learned a great deal from it. And I am thankful and blessed that I can be called a survivor. But I would prefer to be known as a thriver. Okay. It took me a while to heal and overcome that process. And I rarely lead with my story, but like you, people tend to get a sense. They understand and feel my passion and my assertiveness on wanting people to take their safety seriously. And I have to tell you, many of my clients are women. Many of them, unfortunately, have also experienced horrific circumstances. And so, in that regard, that's where I share my story so that I can help them understand that I can also understand. But for me personally, people get into this false mindset, especially women. We get into the mindset that we live in a safe neighborhood. We go to a safe stores, safe churches or temples, houses of worship, wherever that we frequent. We feel safe. We take precautionary measures. And I always caution people on that false mindset because, you know, almost 20 years ago, I was a sales professional in the information technology industry, a very prominent, and I got off work one day. It was still daylight, and I was running errands in a very wealthy area where you would feel safe. And turns out I was abducted in broad daylight at gunpoint. I was held captive. I was taken to a place 20 miles from the point of my abduction, and it was a new home construction build community. So this person took me and proceeded to rape me repeatedly, and I survived. He was a total psychopath. He tried to screw with me mentally, make me think that this was some sort of date, that, you know, that I had wanted these advances in this assault. It's all part of the game. I realized hours later when he dropped me off to my own vehicle that I was a rarity. I survived, and I thank God for that. But I immediately realized that I needed to take immediate action, and I did. That was 19 years ago. It was just in the past 4 and 5 years that I've actually channeled all of that and have been enabled to tell my story and to gain the certifications and get into I'm in, and hope that I can train other women to avoid this trauma.
It's a horrible thing that happened to you, Judi, but you are absolutely right. You're not just a survivor, you're a thriver, my friend. And I want to show a quick clip of, I know Out and About Columbus came down and did an interview with you guys. I want to show a clip from that here real quick.
Ladies, if you've ever wanted to learn how to shoot, or you're an experienced shooter and just want to come out and have some fun, On Guard Defense in Hocking Hills is the place to come. Judi, welcome to Out and About Columbus. It's a pleasure to meet you, and thanks for having us out to On Guard Defense.
Thank you for coming, Renee.
Well, you are a woman owner, and also You've created this really for women, correct?
Yes, that's correct. As a female gunner, when my own experience at indoor and outdoor ranges was unsatisfactory. So I really had a vision in mind to create a Disneyland of shooting sports. In addition to firearms, we're into archery as well. And then I also do unarmed self-defense. But yes, as a woman, my focus is on women. And frankly, women are the largest growing market segment in guns. They also have the buying power. So I knew that if I could attract other women with our facilities, the men would come and the kids would come.
Now, you guys are all about safety. Tell us about that.
Well, as I said, most ranges, they'll take your money and send you out to a lane, and it's up to you to shoot and do your thing. Here, I want to make sure that all shooters have the opportunity to be safe. So we have certified range safety officers on range at all times to ensure that safety, as well as offer professional instruction, because some folks come in and they just don't know proper gun handling skills. Maybe they haven't been taught the universal gun safety rules. So we want to educate because we want safe, law-abiding gun owners out there.
It's beautiful out here.
Yes.
Tell us how we find out more information about On Guard Defense.
Yes, you can visit our website at onguarddefense.com, or you can reach out to us by telephone. Our number is 740-596-1984.
Thank you so much, Judi. It's so nice to meet you, and this looks like a lot of fun.
Thank you so much. Glad to have you.
Really is a lot of fun out there at your place. So, Judi, I know that you are a NRA safety officer and certified instructor. You are also a USCCA, which I've just learned stands for the United States Concealed Carry Association. You are a trainer, you're a counselor and instructor with them, and they also offer legal protection for responsible gun owners. So I'm a new and hopefully responsible gun owner. Tell me a little bit about what that means.
The USCCA is a wonderful organization. I'm proud to represent them. And as you mentioned, I am a certified training counselor, which means I can certify other instructors to deliver the Concealed Carry and Home Defense Fundamentals course. I'm also an instructor, obviously. All of my team is also instructors and certified range safety officers. And yes, you're correct. USCCA offers its membership status, and there's 3 varying levels depending on the level of coverage you're looking for. But basically, you can look at it as somewhat of home insurance protection, right? We insure our homes. It's a lot of valuables and whatnot, so we want to make sure it's protected. As far as the gun ownership side, and with USCCA, unlike some of their competition that offers similar benefits, they cover you whether a gun is involved, a knife is involved, fists, pepper spray, whatever. Any self-defense situation, any critical incident that you get into, if you're a membership of the USCCA, you have 24/7 access to a hotline that's answered, and you are directed to a criminal defense attorney who has already been vetted by the USCCA. You're given those options so that you can be put in direct contact with them when you are met with the need to do so. And so it will cover things like bail bond. It will cover a lawyer's fees, retainers. It will cover court costs and things of that nature, lost income. We just have to be careful, because I know, especially with the current climate, yes, more and more new gun owners are purchasing firearms. Some of them have limited access to training due to the varying lockdowns throughout the country. So this is a concern. We need to be very careful. And yes, it's helpful to have that coverage in case you're in a critical incident and need it. Most people think, well, if I draw my firearm to defend myself, it's obvious when the cops show up who's the good guy, who's the bad guy. That is not the way criminal justice system works.
And I think we see that on our nightly news, right? All right.
Yeah.
I know that helping women defend themselves is near and dear to your heart, and you're very involved in Krav Maga. Am I saying that right? Krav Maga? I want to show this clip about women in Krav Maga, and then I want to ask you about it, Judi. So what exactly is Krav Maga?
Okay, it's Krav Maga. It's developed for the Israeli Defense Forces, or IDF, which happened to be one of the most potent special forces operations in the world. In fact, the United States military trains with the Israeli Defense Forces in these unarmed self-defense techniques, which is what it is. And, you know, guns are great. They happen to be my preferred method of protection, but there are so many places where we can't always carry firearms. There's also situations, women specifically maybe, that will never embrace firearms, but we still need to have the ability to protect ourselves. So that's where Krav Maga enters. What I always say is it's heavier on martial, less on arts. It really takes into consideration practicing extreme situational awareness. So we're aware of our surroundings at all times so that we can recognize a potential threat before it's on top of us. Second to that, if we find ourselves into a situation, listen, especially as women, there is a disparity involved in terms of size, in terms of strength. So Krav Maga isn't something that you have to practice and invest all this money in and advance through belts. Krav Maga is something real world street fighting, right? How to survive, how to go toe to toe with an aggressor, and in the shortest amount of time, make the greatest impact so that it allows you the precious moments to be able to escape. We're never going to go 10 rounds toe to toe with someone twice our size. The point is knowing the vulnerable areas on our bodies, how to strike, how to do so with force and effectiveness to allow us the opportunity to escape or give us some distance so that we can go to that more lethal weapon. And again, my choice is the gun.
Right. And I have to tell you, Judi, I appreciate the fact that you kept the streak going. It's the fourth show in a row where I've been corrected on how I pronounce the word. So that's awesome. All right. Now, I know just this past weekend, you had a concealed carry program out there. I want to show a little clip as to what was happening this past weekend.
Women represented approximately 40.1% of the historic surge in first-time gun owners since the start of the COVID pandemic. In my concealed carry class this past weekend, 80% were women, and I couldn't be happier about that statistic. All women should be trained and armed at all times. Women are wising up to the fact that we live in a world where the cops have been neutered, thugs roam the streets looking for innocent victims and bystanders who would sooner take a video of you being attacked to post on social media for likes rather than step in to save you. My students refuse to be victims. They learn how to avoid bad situations before they're in the thick of it, strategize in advance as to how they will respond in far too common situations, and learn how to protect themselves physically, legally, financially, and morally. Check out our concealed carry classes and more at onguarddefense.com.
Now, I've seen that you've had Lady Warriors weekend, you have the lead and the lace. Tell me a little bit more about like the special things that you do with the ladies there.
Well, yeah, I do. I call my ladies my lady warriors, and I see so many ladies, like I said, who have been victimized in horrific ways, and it's cut them down. It's suppressed and oppressed them in so many ways, and so they're just looking for an outlet. They're looking for a way to regain their power and be safe, be secure, be confident. And so that's what I call my Lady Warrior program, because, you know, every little lady has a budding lady warrior just dying to get out. And so that's what the atmosphere we cultivate here at On Guard Defense. I have female trainers, I have male trainers. All of them are trained in dealing with women from all different backgrounds. And we're just here to embrace whatever they bring with them, help them overcome their fears, and make them empowered to protect themselves and their family moving forward.
Awesome. All right. I want to shift gears now. We're about halfway through, and I want to dig into some issues of the day, things that are happening in our world, Second Amendment. I got a bunch of questions. I'm sure we have some more questions from our audience. The first thing I want to ask you, Judi, is about that couple outside of that sweet crib in St. Louis that were waving guns around. I mean, it looked like he was waving it at her. It looked like he didn't know what he was doing with the gun. I want to show this clip, and then I have a couple specific questions for you about that. Now, Judi, I really tried to get as much information as possible about this event. And here's what I saw. I saw that it was a private street that was labeled a private street. I saw there was a gate that was busted down on the private street, and then the protesters came by. I did not see a protester physically approach either one of the homeowners. I heard that protesters were verbally addressing them with some aggressive things, such as, we're going to burn your house down, we're going to murder your dogs. But I didn't see one actually walk up on the property. So besides the fact that it looked like they weren't holding the guns properly, were they in the right or in the wrong?
All right. That has been a hot topic this past week. You're right. And thank you for bringing it up. I have been outspoken on social media, as I usually am when I'm not banned from doing so. But you are totally right in terms of there were some very unsafe and poor gun handling skills exhibited. And I don't know these folks. I understand that they are lawyers. And I'm here in Ohio. I don't know what their state laws are. And let me preface this with the fact that I am not a lawyer. I did spend 10 years as a practicing paralegal, and also in my role as an instructor and a gun owner and activist, speaking on behalf of gun laws. Things like this concern me. And as you mentioned earlier in the show, since the COVID-19 pandemic started, March, April, and May were record gun sales in the history of our country that's ever been recorded. That's huge. And that is driven by the civil unrest, the violence, and all of these things going on. So from my perspective, I saw a couple of things that really concerned me. These folks were muzzling each other, which is totally unsafe. And the female in particular had very, very poor trigger finger discipline. Her finger was all over that trigger. It only takes a slip and you have what most folks call an accidental discharge, what those of us in the industry call a negligent discharge. We are in charge of our firearms. We are onerous of understanding the universal safety rules. We are onerous to make sure that we only use force, and even specifically deadly force, which comes into play when you're drawing your firearm, when you're pointing your firearm at someone. We need to understand the legal rules that must be in place. And first and foremost, that must be that we have reasonable fear of great grave bodily harm or death. Now, you mentioned, yes, they broke through. They shouldn't have been there. They're trespassing. I saw the video as well. They were up on the lawn. I heard the threats. I recommend to my students, and I'll say the same thing to your viewing audience, is if there's a potential threat outside of your homestead, call 911, secure your homestead, have a pre-identified safe room, retreat to that, and barricade yourself in, and be prepared to issue verbal commands if your home is breached. And if that safe room is breached, that's when you are ready to defend yourself with deadly force. Okay, so I felt like they, number one, shouldn't have exposed themselves going out there. Number two, again, exhibiting those gun handling skills, it could have ended in catastrophe. Now, was it convincing for the volume of people, the 300 riotous marauders? Yeah, there's, speaking from experience, staring down the barrel of a gun, there's little more convincing than that. The question is are we in the legal right? And it depends on the laws in our particular locality and state.
Let's talk about Joe Biden for a minute.
Oh, Lord.
Joe Biden has called for universal background checks, an assault weapons ban, and we'll get to next question. He wants to end all online sales of guns, gun parts, and ammo. Now, as somebody who doesn't know enough about it, Judi, I guess I wouldn't. Why would anybody have a problem with a universal background check?
Well, let me ask you, do you trust your government right now? Do you trust your government? Because I'm here in Ohio and I have a Republican governor, Mike DeWine, who has, since the start of this, has been violating the rights of Ohioans. They make all these rules and regs associated with guns, but guns aren't the problem. The problem is the criminal element. And no matter what rules, laws you put on the books, we are law-abiding citizens. We are not the ones that are going out and committing crimes. We also all go through background checks to make sure that we are law-abiding citizens and gain access to the weapons we have. Conversely, the criminal element gets their guns unlawfully through home invasions, through robberies, through things of that nature. They're never going to follow the laws. So, and in terms of Joe Biden, honey, never, ever, ever take gun advice from Joe Biden, okay? He's the one that advised a couple of years ago his wife, Dr. Jill Biden, to, if she felt a threat in her home, that she should take the shotgun and go out on her porch and throw up some warning shots. No, what goes up must come down. That is awful, awful advice. He doesn't know an AR-15 from an AR-9 from an AR-2, which, by the way, those don't exist except for the 15 and the 10, okay? So this is not someone you want to take gun advice from. This is a gun-grabbing politician, and you tell me, given the current climate, with the surge in guns, all of the people, the majority of the people that went out in these past 3 months to purchase gun stock, they previously were anti-gunners.
So I knew which question to ask to get the blood pressure headed upwards here. All right, so my next question for you, Judi, is there are a lot of people who say, you know, we support the Second Amendment, of course, your right to bear arms, but a lot of people, you hear them say, why does an average citizen need an AR-15?
Why not? What's wrong with an AR-15? There's so much misinformation perpetrated by the false media about the AR-15. The AR-15 is the go-to firearms weapon of choice for, home defense. The AR-15 is simplistic in nature. People want to say, well, the AR stands for automatic rifle. No. Civilians cannot just go get an automatic rifle. It's not something that you press the trigger, and as long as you depress that trigger, it goes and just blows all this kind of ammo like your Rambo. It's a semi-automatic firearm, similar to the guns that you and Alex shot when you came out here. There are certain aspects to it that make it more modular and portable and serviceable, but it is no more deadly than some of the rifle systems that we have had for over 100 years.
So let me ask you this, Judi. I hear a lot when I watch, I always try to get both sides of the issue, and I try to really educate myself as to what everybody's saying. I hear a lot of people saying we need more gun laws, we need more gun laws. I hear other people say we need to enforce the gun laws we have on the books. Are there any laws that you could see that could be enacted that are not on the books now that could make our country safer from gun violence?
No, I'll go back to the prior comment I made. Criminals don't follow laws. In fact, I think there's way too many gun laws on the books. They are not evenly enforced. You have discrimination out the wazoo when you're applying, self-defense scenarios. I've seen it all. We need less gun laws. In Ohio, we've got the duty to notify our law enforcement officers. We're one of maybe 7 or 8 states that have that duty. And why should we have that? We've applied for our concealed carry permit. We've been issued it. And when the cops pull us over, they run our license plate through the leads onboard computer system. It comes up flashing, concealed carry holder. Yet we are onerous in spite of that to immediately notify the officer, so much such we must interrupt him or her to make sure we tell them, notify them of our status, lest we could be cited for not doing so in a, quote, reasonable amount of time. But guess what? Reasonable is subjective, which then means you've got to hire a lawyer and all this BS, which again lends back to why USCCA membership is such a great deal. There's so many laws, they're so convoluted. And the reality is, at least in Ohio, the folks that submit to the background checks and the training and the rigor in order to be issued a concealed carry permit are safer and have less critical incidences than law enforcement officers who are off duty.
Judi, are you going to be wearing those high heels behind you at your 4th of July party?
I very well might. I've worn them many times. I am a true patriot. I'm a military wife and mom. I am all about our freedoms, and it sickens me to see them slipping away in so many ways. And if I've got to put those 5-inch high heels on and shove them up someone's backside, I'm going to do it, sir.
All right. Let me ask you this, Judi, because there's a big question mark in our country as to how to make our schools safer. And like noses, everybody has an opinion. What are your thoughts on arming teachers?
Well, I actually am for that, as long as they are willing to do so, as long as they can get adequate training and are able to demonstrate that. I think it's a good idea. Honestly, I think before you even go to that step, a cheaper and more reasonable solution would be just to go rip down all of those gun-free zone signs and replace them with great big signs that say, everyone's armed to the teeth and anyone who wishes to do harm here will be neutralized.
You told me about this stat, and I want to show it, that since the beginning of the pandemic, and only through April, I imagine it's even gotten worse, but the stat on the left there, that 40.2% of guns that were sold in the beginning portion of this year, January through April, 40.2% were to first-time gun buyers. That tells you there's something happening out there.
Oh, definitely. And like I said, it's just interesting because I am such an activist. I run into anti-gunners all the time, and I like to engage in debate. I mean, I want to learn what motivates them, and usually it's due to ignorance or just misinformation. But yes, women continue to be the or the highest growing market segment. There's a lot of independent women. There's women who are unmarried. There's women in the workforce who travel frequently. And again, that disparity in terms of our size and our capabilities dictates us having what I call the equalizer. And that can only come by way of a firearm.
All right. So as a new gun owner, I'm learning all about these things. Like I said, I really immerse myself in it because I really want to understand what's right, what's wrong. Even though something's lawful, doesn't make it right. There's common sense, there's logic. So let's talk about this idea of concealed carry versus open carry. And I know in Pennsylvania that anyone that buys a gun, and I've went through this where you go through an instant background check, takes a few minutes, and you can walk out of a sporting goods store with a gun, and you're allowed to carry it out in the open immediately, but you need a license to conceal it. And I've heard from law enforcement officers that I've talked to, as well as gun store owners, that would tell you that even though you're allowed to carry it out in the open, that's probably not a great idea. And the one analogy one gun range owner said to me, that would be like having your wallet hang out and showing everybody where your money is and how much you have. So help me understand that whole dynamic.
Well, that's an interesting comment, Doc, and I guess I'll ask you, does not having your wallet hanging out in the open prevent burglaries? No, it doesn't. Open carry versus concealed carry is a highly contentious issue. And, we could spend days talking about it, but I'm going to sum it up like this. We're in neighboring Ohio. We also have the right to open carry. However, there's an asterisk with that, and I'm not familiar with your laws in Pennsylvania, so perhaps you could look into this. But where you go wrong is in Ohio, if you do not have your Ohio concealed handgun license and you are open carrying and it's right there in the open and you get on the back of a motorcycle, people can still see it, but now you're violating motor vehicle transportation laws. If you jump into your vehicle, you are violating motor vehicle transportation laws. If you don't break that apart and make sure you store it in such a way where the ammo is separate from the gun. So a lot of people don't understand this. And so we always encourage folks to definitely get their concealed handgun license for that reason, whether they're going to open carry or not. Now, Doc, I'm out here in a rural environment, and you also saw my nifty drop leg holster where I've got my Glock 26 strapped to my leg. And I told you, I open carry just like that 85-90% of the time. When I go into the big cities, when I go into grocery stores, restaurants, I only solicit organizations that allow me my Second Amendment right to carry. Now, as far as open versus concealed, let me tell you this: Mars versus Venus. Most men will tell you, don't ever open carry because you're giving yourself up. You'll be the first one they'll pick up. Okay, fine. I'm not a man. I'll never be a man. I'm a woman. I'm also a survivor and thriver. And what I tell my ladies is this: if I am out in a sea of women walking around and some bad guy with bad intentions is surveying all of us women to determine who his next weak victim is, Doc, really? Do you think he's going to choose me with that strapped to my leg?
All right. That's a great point. All right, Judi, I have a question. And before you answer the question, I want to show a graphic that you provided for me, and then we can talk about it. So Vince Sacca wants to know, Judi, what type of firearm would you suggest for a first buyer to be used for home or self-protection? Now, I want to show this graphic because this pretty much answers what other people are doing, Vince. And if you look on the left, the most purchased handgun or the most purchased gun from a first-time firearm buyer by far is the semi-automatic. So my question and Vince's question would be, do you agree with that, and why is that?
Well, I hate to, be sort of dodgy on it, but how I answer that question is always this: it depends. It depends on what your primary uses are for that firearm. And this commenter mentioned for home defense. I would approach that home defense aspect differently than if they were more concerned about carrying a concealed firearm on the go. Frankly, an AR-15 is the best home defense weapon. A semi-automatic is certainly obviously great as well, and it's my preferred firearm. It's small, I can handle it. I don't have to worry about, even if during a home invasion, me kind of coming around corners. because, you've got an AR-15, a long gun, a rifle. Those are considerations. The weight of it, fitting a firearm to your individual needs. So it's difficult for me to answer that, but what I will recommend is seek out a range that will allow you to get your hands on different sorts of weapon systems, throw some rounds down range, and see what works for you. Another big thing is I get these guys specifically that they have well intentions and want to provide their females with a firearm, so they get one that matches theirs or what they think will fit her. Bad move. Women need to, again, get their hands on those firearms and pick something that works for them.
All right, so I want to share with you again the two guns that I have, and I want to kind of give you my take, and you tell me if I'm on target or if I'm way off base. Okay. So the gun at the bottom there is a Beretta Bobcat. It's the choice of assassins, I learned, and some off-duty police officers. Really tiny. It's got this unique tip-up barrel, but it is a semi-automatic, and it's one of the rare semi-automatics that you don't have to rack the slide. But I do know that for a lot of women, maybe some older folks, racking the slide can be somewhat difficult at times. Now, the top gun there is a Smith & Wesson Bodyguard 38 Special Plus P. Now, from what I've learned about this, this is a classic gun that's kind of been remade. It does have this cool laser on it. But revolvers, which have kind of fallen out of favor, from what I've gathered, as semi-automatics have become more modern and it holds more bullets, if that's a consideration. But for a novice, somebody new, boy, that revolver is as idiot-proof as it gets. You pretty much, you open the chamber, you put the 5 bullets in, you close it, and because it has a double action, very long trigger pull, that acts as the safety. So it seems to me that for a first-time gun owner, or even for like a woman who wanted to put it in their purse and maybe doesn't have a ton of time to do a lot of training as they should, it's probably, seems to me, the easiest gun to use if you need it in a hurry. Any of that make any sense?
Yeah, and I've heard that feedback. You're not alone, but I actually dispute it. Especially with regard to women. And let me tell you why. A lot of the women that I see come in and they used to have a semi-automatic, but as we age, we don't have as much strength. We may be dealing with carpal tunnel or arthritic issues that prevent us from being able to rack that slide. You mentioned that. That's one of the biggest struggles for women. And so then they come in, they've reverted back to the revolver. And nothing against the revolver. I'm a big fan. However, you mentioned the double action, that it's that long trigger press, and it is. And it's so heavy for women, Doc. You all guys, you big, strong guys, you don't see that. I've seen women come in and that trigger, they're using both fingers and it's not going to work, especially in a defensive shooting situation. And you're limited to 5 or 6 rounds of ammo. If you've got to reload that bad boy on the fly, you're screwed. Okay. So here's the deal. Let me help you out. Ladies, Smith & Wesson has these beautiful M&P Shield EZ models, a 380 EZ, a 9mm EZ. The EZ specifically is designated for the ease in the racking of the slide. Secondly, on the magazine, it has a little tab, a magazine assist. So you can take that pressure off that spring and much more easily load your rounds in versus your standard and you're pressing and hurting. Okay, so we can get around these things. But yes, revolvers are good, but you got to get the right gun for you. And I just don't see as that being a functional weapon in a self-defense scenario for women.
Understood. Judi, hang with me 1 minute here while I give my audience a peek as to what I have going on here next week, if you would. So next week, wow, next Tuesday night, we have got really our first person that many people in the country know. We're going to be talking next Tuesday night all about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. And we have Jonathan Tobin on. Jonathan is from the Jewish News Syndicate. He's actually the editor-in-chief. He writes for the New York Post and the Jerusalem Post. He is a frequent Fox News contributor. He's probably one of the foremost experts on the subject in America, and I am just absolutely thrilled to welcome Jonathan Tobin to the program. That is next Tuesday. And then next Thursday, we are going to break the internet next Thursday. You know, Joe Biden and Donald Trump are not scheduled to debate until September, if it ever happens at all. Well, America doesn't want to wait that long. So Confidently Speaking with DOC has facilitated America's first debate of 2020, the battle for America, Heller versus Herky. Brian Heller representing the right, Herky Pollock representing the left. That is next Thursday, a week from tonight at 7 o'clock. We will probably go maybe twice as long as usual because we have got a lot to talk about. Judi, you've been an awesome guest, a totally awesome guest. Trust me when I tell you, you will see Alex and I again. It's a little bit of a trek from Athens to get there. You did tell me of a better way, and next time I will take that way. What final thoughts do you have for us, Judi?
I just want people to understand that there's a lot going on in the world around us that is scary, that some of which we don't understand. And I would just say, trust your gut. Invest your time and your efforts in your loved ones and your families and getting prepared for what comes ahead. Invest your education in protecting yourself, situational awareness, unarmed self-defense, and getting a firearm and learning how to use it. Just be safe out there.
Tremendous advice. Judi, how can our audience find you both live and in person and online?
Well, I'm all over the place, Doc, but onguarddefense.com is our website. It offers all of our courses online, everything that we've got going on out here at the range. We are a public facility out here in the Hocking Hills, so if you're looking for a staycation within Ohio or coming into Ohio from abroad, you cannot go wrong vacationing in our area, and if you are nearby, please reach out to us. We would love to see you.
Awesome. Hang with me. I want to talk to you after the show, Judi.
Thank you so much, Doc.
You're welcome. All right. Another tremendous guest tonight. Judi was really informative, and I've learned a lot. And I'm going to keep this line of communication open because she is just a treasure trove of information. You know, I've always felt like you got to get information from everywhere so that you can make your own decisions. But it's really important that you expand your horizons and get information from all walks of life. As I have promised you on this show, we are going to bring on guests from all walks of life. We have a stellar lineup next week. I could not be more excited about what's going on next week. I hope you turn in. Have a great 4th of July. God bless America.